Welcome back to Let's Talk Race Somaliland. I'm your host, Harrison Paul, and today we're going to talk about Independence Week. Yes, happy independence to all my Zimbabweans. I made a joke earlier this week. I said, happy independence to all my Rhodesians, Zimbabweans. Because I do not think we are free. I think independence was fake independence, and there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in order for us to truly get our independence. So whether you are, from Zimbabwe or not, I encourage all of you guys to come in and watch this video, whether you're Nigerian, whether you're not Ghanaian, whether you're Congolese or any African. I encourage you to watch this video because I definitely think a lot of us have, a lot of these deficiencies when it comes to having an independent mind. It's one of the things my mother mentioned in her book. Thank you, Mrs. G, Colonized Mindset to Total Emancipation, that I think Africans believe that once we had got independence on paper, that it would automatically transfer itself to an independence psychologically. This turned out to be obviously not the case. If we think about the African American struggle, we understand that they struggled psychologically for a very long time until this very day. They reinforce and they reinforce. If you want to know the secret to the Jewish people, it wasn't because they were good business people alone. If you want to know the secret to the Jewish people, it wasn't because they were together alone. It was because they reinforced what happened. They reinforced what happened. Never again, never again, never again, never again. Whereas your enemy was telling you, can you just stop talking about it? Can you forget about it, please? And you believed him because you want him not to feel uncomfortable. You want your ex-master to feel as most comfortable as possible. For him to feel that, you know what, I do not have any grudges. I do not have any. But what the Jewish man was doing is he was making sure that every kid, even a young black boy in Ireland that's never even touched Germany, that's never probably, even kids in my class will probably never even go to Germany. Some people, will sit in Ireland their whole life. There are people who will probably never even come across a German, but they were enforced by a school curriculum that everybody has to know who Hitler was and what Hitler did. Why? Because there is no revolution without understanding of what we are trying to rewrite, what we are trying to undo. That's why now when we have about October 7th, everybody was uncompromising about this has been the biggest atrocity since what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. I love Jewish for that. I tried to do it in one of my videos. I spoke about this, and thank God for my lady, because sometimes I'll say something very controversial, and I'm trying to explain something, and she's like, you know what, babe, I don't think you explained that the way you do it off camera. I think you're going to have to give that another shot, so we'll cut it out or whatever, but I'm going to give another shot today. Not at all that I support the Zionists. I don't. In fact, I'm very, very heartbroken for what is happening to our Palestinian people. But if there's one thing that I am learning from, because I think you should even learn in many ways or observe I wouldn't call them my enemy, but anybody who has, represents something negative. Unfortunately, the Zionist movement right now represents something negative. And I cannot reject that fact. There are negative and atrocious things happening. But as we're looking at the atrocious thing happening, and you observe the Ben Shapiros who can relentlessly not even move from the standpoint on where they stand. They will not even budge an inch. Now, of course, I do believe the meaning of justice and meaning of having a good heart is being able to say, you know what, I do support my people, I do support Jews, but I think this is a step too far. Or I think that is a step too far. But with that being said, I'm analyzing the togetherness as they stand together regardless of the opinions that come from the outside. And if there's one thing that we fail as black people, is that once the heat comes with standing on business, this is when we lose soldiers, and I have experienced that. It's all good and well in the first week when someone dies. It's all good and well when George Floyd dies in that first week, or George Nchenko dies in that first week. But as the weeks trickle on, and as your white friends begin to feel that more and more uncomfortable, and as you're digging and digging into their subconscious minds, and you're finally getting all the things that you should have said, or reposting the post that you've never got to say, and your white friend is now thinking, that post you put up, are you talking about me? Or and now it's getting to the nitty gritty, and it's getting very, not personal, but close to home. You're hitting something, you're hitting a nerve. This is when people start to give you that little energy to say, okay, I gave you a week to protest, I gave you a week to be emotional, now back it up, because now I don't want to be seeing black things all week on my timeline. And then you find your Negro brother and sister backtracking. But what I'm loving about Ben Shapiro, he's going to stand on Zionism Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He going to fire Candace Owens. They're going to stand on Zionism. And guess what? His Zionist friend who also owns the company ain't going to trip either. The two of them, all three of them are going to come together, going to fire that girl, all three of them together. This is how power is formed. Even if you think about the white man, what does he do to us? He gets all these people to say, we tired of hearing this about this black power stuff. We tired of hearing this BLM stuff, right? You tired? I'm tired of it, man. It's making me feel uncomfortable. Okay, let us all get together and silence black people. Then you, as a black person, your knees start to buckle. Your palms get sweaty. You start to itch and think, oh my God, I think Jonathan's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable because I done put some posts up now. It's my second, third week straight putting up these revealing quotes that reference something about race, or reference something about unconscious bias, or reference something about something that they could possibly suffer with. And now I can tell that he's gonna do a reverse psychology to make me feel like I'm too extra about something. And look, don't we treat you nicely? That's one of the things that I hate the most. That I was watching something quite recently, and it was I should get the video for you, but basically what it was talking about a man who never had left America. This was during the Jim Crow times, and for him life was very segregated. But then he came to the UK, and when he came to the UK, I thought this was so powerful. Once arriving to the UK, where there was no official segregation, I love this because the person who was narrating said that he felt at first sight that this was heaven, right? He said, wow, I can eat at this restaurant. I can eat at that restaurant. There's nowhere I'm kept out from. And then he said, oh, and he thought it was over time. He began to see, now I'm seeing beneath the surface. And this is the issue. Then we're told, listen, are you saying I don't let you in a restaurant? Are you saying everything above the surface? Are you saying the simple thing? And it's what's sad is that you're now being forced to appreciate simple life, rights, because it's like we're comparing it to you're no longer in chains. And then we're not allowed to get to the intricacies of life. Let me give you one more before we get back on topic. When we think about the topic of race, and we think about how far we are trying to push, my friend came to me today and he told me an amazing story. Anybody who's a Christian, when someone comes and tells you a story, they don't even know, they're just telling you a story. And then like, okay, God, you're saying something to me. So it was something I've been dwelling on all day. As you can imagine, when I do this show, me and God would just be chilling. I'm just kind of talking to God. You Christians will understand me, and you're just meditating on an understanding, grasping the understanding. And he comes to me and he's like, yo, man, guess what happened? You'll never guess what happened to me. I'm like, what happened, bro? He's like, bro, basically, let me just cut this short so we can get back, right? He goes, 6 months ago, there was a housemate who moved into his house. The housemate was quite strange. A white male, got to put that in there. Quite strange, whatever. And now there's a bunch of people living in the house. A lot of them share the crib. And the police bars in today, and they're like, you know what I mean? And he was at the gym like a couple of days ago. He was at the gym. He didn't actually see this take place. So what happens? They barge in, they confiscate everybody's phones. They had a warrant. They came in, they confiscate everyone's phone. Everyone's panicking, traumatic. Like about 7 police, and they come in like SWAT. And they confiscate everyone's phone because I'm lucky I wasn't at home because everything, laptops, everything was confiscated. What do they find out? They find out that somebody in that house had been watching child, right, you know what I'm going to say. Child, right, images. And I'm like, wow, my mouth is open. I can't believe this. Like, bro, I'm telling you. And they said that it's been happening. They've been tracing it for the last 6 months. Long and behold, everyone in the house has been there for almost like he said 4 years. The only person who's been there for the last 6 months is the newest member. And, you know, he then proceeds to tell me the details of how it was so dramatic and everything like that. And everyone's complaining now. It's like, oh my God, some people's work laptops were taken, work phones were taken, all sorts. And it was just a coincidence that morning I was speaking to another brother through voice notes, and I was saying, it is our job to make sure that racism is as big of a sin as child abuse. I had literally said that this morning before I went and I met my friend earlier that day. And I was like, wow. So the whole time I'm like, God, you're saying something, you know? And it's like, although certain people, so I bring that to what I was saying, although certain people kind of like, yeah, like, let's use the metaphor of saying, yeah, like, I haven't gone and I haven't, you know, put my hands on a child, but can you believe 7 cops busted through this door for him having just images? And I was like, now we can never expect this from the system. But I felt like this is how at the very least we should treat it about ourselves. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And there was a brother who came to me, Tatum, good friend of mine, was talking about some guy from Ireland who was being racist and whatever, and his platform is still up, name is Gary Lyons or something like that. And he said the N-word or some drama was happening in Ireland. And, you know, he was complaining that this guy still has a big platform or whatever. And I'm like, you know, I understand the frustration and it's good to feel like that because, you know, to all the Irish people, it's like, oh, he said it, whatever, get over it. But if I today decide I was going to hop on the net and say, guess what, guys, I want to mess with kids, or I want to go out there and force a white woman to have intercourse with me, my platform shuts down right away. My life stops right away. There's some people saying, well, he maybe didn't mean like that, or some people saying, oh, no. And if we are not going to be this way about our causes, then how in God's name do we get people to be this way about our own causes? About our respect, about our disrespect. And then I say, and this is how we arrive at places then where people like, you know, it's still justice for Luke Momo. People like Luke Momo's mother can be completely and utterly disrespected because there's a history of a lack of urgency about racism. And then you're made feel crazy, and your wife makes you feel crazy for saying, okay, putting urgency on the matter, that's getting out of hand now. Since when is putting urgency on a matter getting out of hand? So I digress, and I just say this is what I enjoyed about, you know, as I observe the Jewish situation that's taking place right now. But we go back now to Zimbabwean independence. And I'm just going to get into what I have noticed about us as Zimbabwean people. You know, the fact that we as Zimbabwean people are, you know, we're up close and personal with our oppressor. We definitely have we took on a different mold to Nigerians or Ghanaians or Congolese. There's a different mold. I can always tell a Zimbabwean when I see a Zimbabwean because, one of our first prime ministers was an Irish man. This imprint of the white man and being in proximity with him, it has an historical effect. It definitely has an historical effect. Before I get into that, I want to play one of my favorite revolutionaries of our time. Dr. Arikana. This woman is literally state of the art. But she speaks about the fact that us as African people and how our independence was fake. We worry too much about the issues above the ground, not understanding that it is the issues below the ground that are causing us the real problems. And that these issues below the ground is the ones I play my role in trying to tackle. But she's going to break this down to you very nicely. You should go watch the whole tape. It's called Africa Was Given Fake Independence. Colonial Still Control Africa. Arikana. Please, guys, go and check this video. I'm going to put a link in the description. If you want to understand things, you got to check the full thing out. I'm only going to play a fraction of it here, but let's watch.
We need to understand what has been done to this tree to take it to where we have the Africa that is no longer the center of the world. When we understand what has been done to Africa, it makes it easier for us to strategize on how we can undo the damage, the destruction that has befallen our motherland, the African tree of life. I think it's clear that we understand for this tree to have issues. The issues are either issues above the ground, which is what they have mostly wanted us to focus on, versus issues below the ground, which are really the pivotal issues, the issues that they strategized to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. Allow me to classify the issues, the reasons why this tree of life that is Africa is ailing. And I'm going to divide the issues between the two. Problems that are causing this tree to ail, but problems above the root, above the ground. And issues that are making this tree ail that are below the ground, issues of the root. Quite often, we are focusing on the issues above the root, issues above the ground. Issues like the leaves and the flowers and the fruits and the branches that are falling off one season after another. Those issues like leadership, issues like corruption, issues like poor access to healthcare, poor education, poor infrastructure. Those are all issues above the ground. They come and they go. We change leaders every day in Africa. But tell me one African country that changed a leader and things changed. We might see some improvement, but fundamentally, nothing changes. This was all by design. Where we are lacking in our understanding of our Africa is the issues below the ground, the issues of the root, the issues that were predetermined by those who came to colonize Africa, those who came to settle in our beloved continent. Remember, when they came to Africa, the settlers, they found an amazing continent with everything and anything the world could ever need, well-established religious and educational systems. And they wondered, how on earth can we ever conquer such an amazing continent unless we come up with a strategy that will see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated.
This is such a wonderful video. One of the underground issues that she says is basically the mental and psychology, the spirit of the African. And when we talk about Zimbabweans, I feel there is a pandering spirit that still lives in the Zimbabwean people, probably in a massive way. It's definitely in every African, but you often find Zimbabweans will be so eager to latch on to white people, probably more than a Congolese or more than, a Nigerian. And Nigerians like to kind of latch on to each other. So do Congolese, but Zimbabwean out of everyone would probably much rather latch on to any European rather than latch on to another Zimbabwean. You know, if anywhere you see a Nigerian, there's most likely you heard of them. You know. But I still feel like Nigerians are not really known much for being revolutionary minded and fighting. You know, they kind of fight for themselves or for business ventures. Now, this is generalizing, but I'm still, other than the famous Dr. Shola, you know, I feel like whenever I kind of try connect with a Nigerian, he's really about his own business and not really the betterment of, or, you know, a revolutionary way of thinking. Just very business minded. We'll give them that, and I think they a lot of times find themselves, you know, pandering to white people because they feel like, listen, if this is gonna get me forward, to hell with anybody else in Africa. That's not my, you know, that's not my own or my business. But one of the things that I'm learning about African people that we failed, and I was telling brother this quite recently. And I'm so happy I'm going to get a chance to say this today. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. There is absolutely no revolution that can take place without people thoroughly understanding their history. I can pull you 10 African men here today. They will not be able to break down to you with their eyes closed how independence took place and the big and most important names of independence and who got those contracts. Do you think it's a coincidence that all of us know Martin Luther, Malcolm X, Louis Farrakhan, Harriet Tubman? Guys, there are names that I can't even bring at the top of my mind. Through, if we think about even the Black Panther, Huey P. Newton, the movie on Fred Hampton. We know these names so casually because these, you know, and there's more names I'm not even mentioning right now, you know. The African Americans understood that without us knowing our history and the timeline, there is no revolution. It's so funny because I was talking to a brother and I said, brother, can you name me? He was telling me, yeah, man, like you said, but it's corrupt, issues below the ground. I'm telling him, a revolution. Can you name me 5 brothers today who can break down to you independence and how it took place? I said, you yourself, can you name me? He goes, I don't even know what happened. You don't even, I don't even know. I don't know nothing. How do you expect a revolution? Because this is how revolution happens. What you need to understand why America is doing well is because every black child in America knows the bare minimum about this revolution. So now when you get a young child who is growing up, who's been taught by her grandma and granddad exactly what took place in this timeline of this war, what happens is when she grows up to be a lawyer, she takes her revolutionary mind in to her department of life. When a young boy grows up and he loves media, an African boy, he takes his revolutionary mind that his grandma and his mom taught him, he takes it in to media. When a young African boy is taught, I don't know, something that can make him useful in the UN or make him useful in the United and African Nations or something political or something like that, he takes his revolutionary mind into that department. So what we don't understand is that when you look at America, you see black mayors here, you see Baudet, and they know there'll be referencing what different great African people. But the problem is that everyone who was growing up in Africa, and remember, this is no fault of your own. One of the conditions that were given to African people when they were given their independence is that we still have to school you and we still have to determine your curriculum. That is the best and easiest way, one of them anyway, to dismantle any sort of a revolution. You go to Ireland, I always say this all the time, Irish kids knew about Michael Collins before they even got into the classroom. Before they even, I used to love Irish class because Irish class was never really, Irish history was never really a class where you were being taught. It was more so a back and forth chat between the teacher and the students because them kids knew that stuff by their grandma and granddad before they even got into school. They knew when they walked around, they it lived in the air. I can tell you now, no African, the average African doesn't know, like, detail that. Like, if I pulled an African to the say, tell me how independence happened. Tell me what they fought for. Tell me this and that. Break it down for me. Just tell me the main names of the guys. Okay, of the guys who fought for independence, who were the main guys spearheading the movements. Or just different moments. One thing I learned about African Americans, when you watch them, it's just in their culture. Understanding their revolution is a part of their culture. You may get, if you're an African person who knows, you can say, oh, I know. Of course you know. But the average African man has thought that history is something to toss out. That his black excellence will come solely on focusing on today. Not even the Jews did that. The Jews are solely energized of saying they tried to destroy us and in the Holocaust, and that fuels them to this very day. Yet you think an African is going to have a revolution with ignoring that. It makes absolutely no sense. That is the quickest way. Think about that. Think about how the oppressor manipulated us to think that how you gain your revolution for generation after generation moving forward is to teach the generations after to forget about the revolution. How counterproductive is that? So you get black people. I can call 10 black people in Ireland right now. Tell me something. I don't know. Africa's corrupt. Okay, fine. Tell me something about the revolution. I don't know nothing about the revolution. I just know Africa's corrupt. So the only narrative you know I can wake you up in the middle of the night. The only thing you know about Africa, bro, tell me something about Africa. We're corrupt. I can wake up an African American. Tell me what Harriet Tubman freed slaves on this day or that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you want to know how that generation was warred to get themselves in a black president? You think a black president came in America because white people wanted to give America a black president? Again, it's arguable whether or not he was good or he was bad. You think that happened out of the goodness of people's hearts? It happened because children who grew up were being raised revolutionaries. So I want to say this. I'm not just considering this Zimbabwe's independence. I'm considering this the independence for all African countries, because I do believe we're one at the end of the day. And we need to understand that our biggest flaw, let's us remember, is that we do not actually understand the importance. Take it from someone who is a Pan-Africanist. African people think like, oh, why are you talking about that? I can pull a Jew here today. He's going to tell you Holocaust, yeah, the numbers of people that died. And he going to even bust a tear like it happened yesterday. We're the only people who've been manipulated to say, you're still thinking about that? There is absolutely no revolution that takes place. Now you think why Africans don't handle Africa with care. Don't handle Africa with a vengeance. If you think a politician is or anybody's handling with care, because we are all mirroring the same energy the white man handled Africa. What is it anyway? Rubbish. You sold us. We sold ourselves. We're corrupt anyway. This. No one is saying. I'm watching all the Irish people right now. They're saying our forefathers fought for this.
And I would just like to say to all the Irish people that are sitting on their fucking couches watching Netflix. Get up! Get up! Get up! Get out! Get fighting! This is our country, and I will fight every single one of you till I have the last breath in my body.
I respect it. I respect it. I'm trying to get my Africans on the same wave. Whatever, we corrupt. Throw it out. You can't get Africans to stand on nothing. You can't get Africans to stand on nothing. But you know what? Africans know how to work hard. We think that it's going to be hard work that's going to make our mission. Look at China, patriotic as it gets. That's what we always say. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. They're going to do business with a Chinese man before they do business with you, Negro. Why don't you copy the same thing? You know how Negroes really get on my nerves? I'm going to tell you they get on my nerves, bro. But I am trying to practice what I know would rehabilitate Africa. And I don't spend time bashing us about the weaknesses I see in the flaws, because the more you get invested into the brokenness of Africa, you'll be able to see past the brokenness and understand that this came and from our condition and what happened to Africa, and now we are getting to the root. And I'll end on this. There's a funny picture that I like. I'll try to put it on the screen because I think it's absolutely hilarious. And, someone says, just start a bank, bro. And then they have a picture of Gaddafi, his final moments when he died. And it's like, we just throw these things out there. Just why can't we just do like them, or why can't we just? That's why you need to watch this video. You understand the webs that have put in Africa to make sure they stayed subdued, that the Western powers could still have hold of Africa's wealth. This is why it is fake independence. So everyone's like, we should just nothing, man. Study your history of your people. Study how it unfolded. Study how we arrived at the place we are today, and you won't be just opening your mouth like, well, our leaders are. I don't want to talk to nobody who cannot break. And it's not about no damn education. I do not want to, because people say, okay, brother, I may not be educated like you. This ain't about no damn education. I can pull out the most uneducated African American, and guess what? He gonna tell you something about the civil rights movement. He gonna tell you about the Montgomery bus boycott and how the elders had to walk in their bare feet for miles to make sure they get that vote. They gonna tell you something. Because they're going to tell you something about the Black Panther Party and how they used to operate and what way they used to go about things. The revolution is in the blood, in the DNA. And that is why the revolutionary minded. They have black love. They have black wealth. You get brothers who go outside, but on more times you got brothers who are understanding the assignment. So I end on this. What revolution can happen, brothers and sisters, if we think it's all about forgetting the past to make your oppressor feel most comfortable. That's what you think it is. Let me tell you something. If you admire the Jews for controlling Hollywood, they did not get there by forgetting the past. They did not get there by forgetting the past. You have been manipulated by your oppressor. And when you understand the past here, you also understand neocolonialism. You also understand how we arrived here today. And then you know better how to attack today than just to open your mouth and spew out our African leaders when you don't even know how you don't even know what the contracts for independence look like. The contracts that your leaders are still actually dealing with today. A lot of the contracts that have them in webs that they had to sign then. A lot of them, did you know a lot of them had to sign contracts? Some of them had to sign contracts. They didn't even speak English. They were forced to sign contracts that they could not even read. Did you know that? Did you know that some of our leaders were forced to sign contracts that are still standing today that they couldn't even read, that weren't in their own language? Did you know that? There's so much things and you need to have as much care for your people. You need to have as much care for your people. So, happy Independence Day. And I will say that because there are Zimbabweans who were probably killed in the guerrilla wars that were trying, but listen, they could only go as far as their life could take them. The revolution has to live on longer than them. And we have let those guys, those brave men and women down who fought, do or die. We let them down by saying, okay, let's not talk too much about what they did. Let's not study how they did it. Let's not study how they thought. Let's not study how they think. Let's not study what they came to understand about our oppressor. Let's not read the books that they left. Let's not pass on the stories. Let's just behave in a way that is most compatible to our oppressor, so maybe he will embrace us. And we thought that would bring us revolution. Well, look at us now. How many years? Does this look like revolution to you? And it's never going to come for as long as we think revolution is going to happen by forgetting how the revolution began, why it began, what factors. I can go on all day. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. God bless. And I'm on a mission for you.